We are back for another episode. We're gonna hop right into it today. Got Austin returning with us. We also got a special guest. We got Josh Hayes with us today, and we're gonna start off right away with the Blackhawks situation. Obviously, that's something that everybody kind of heard about in the last couple days. Um, for those who don't know, there was an issue during the 2010 Stanley Cup run where a player was sexually assaulted. Turns out the player was Kyle Beach. He seems to be like the black ace, guy in that on that run. They just had called him from the minors. He was definitely very young at the time, around 20 years old. Um, and the video coach had sexually assaulted him, and the organization just swept it under the rug because they were a championship team, and obviously they did win the championship. So they tried to keep it quiet instead of addressing an issue that's, so horrific like that. So we have seen the last few days, Stan Bowman has stepped down. Multiple people in the Blackhawks organization who were still there since 2010 were either fired or had stepped down from their position. Joel Quinville was fired yesterday, or I mean, he had stepped down. I say that in fact because I feel like even if he did not step down. There was definitely going to be an exit in some capacity, but in my opinion, he was kind of fired. So he had stepped down yesterday. Zherdev was kept by the Jets today. It seems like there was an explanation given by the league. Uh, a very good explanation. It seems like the fans are very pleased that he is staying because the evidence did show that he really did not know. He was only there for one meeting, so he will stay with the Jets, and it seems like there's going to be no controversy with him still being a GM for the Jets. So, I'll start with Austin. What was the reaction to these big reports that came out and how the NHL handled it?
Like, absolutely baffling. I don't think anyone expected something like this to come out from an organization like the Blackhawks, but, um, something like this is absolutely horrible, dude. It's un not unheard of because it happens in sports a lot, sadly. It sucks to even have to say something like that, but, it shouldn't happen ever, period. Like, there's a situation like this that gets swept under the rug. It's disgusting.
Yeah, we'll throw it on to Josh here. What do you think about all this?
Yeah, it's pretty much a cup is more important than somebody's life and livelihood and just their general self, and that's kind of disgusting in my eyes. I lost a lot of respect for Quenville, for the Blackhawks. I mean, what can you do? It happened. Obviously, I guess all my feelings and shit goes out to Beach. Um, I'm glad he's being positive about it in the sense to raise awareness, but the overall issue is, like Austin said, pretty disgusting. So it's unfortunate.
Yeah, I mean, and not only did it, you know, derail his life for the most part, but it also derailed his career, I believe, in my opinion. It seems like he was blacklisted from playing hockey in general, I would assume. And yeah, I know now he plays overseas, but obviously he never had a chance in the NHL. And I don't know if that had a huge part in it, but I wouldn't be surprised if it did.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting because if I take a look at his stats too, like he seemed like a player that was actually pretty solid in the minor leagues. So I'm not sure how he never really got another chance. So unless everybody knew about it, I feel like if other players knew about it or something, it would kind of you know become like a more of a natural issue. Like everyone would kind of know about it already, but he kind of kept it under the rug for 11 years, and he was able to come out and speak on this part. It's especially as someone who wants to get into that business, it's a little hard to even think about that that happened. because this is what happens when you don't speak up. I mean, is Stan Bowman ever going to be a GM in this league anymore? I mean, probably not. Uh, will Quinville be a coach in this league? I mean, it's obviously there's going to be, Bettman already said there's going to be a thing, so it's going to be a while before Quinville even comes back into this league. So when something happens like this, hopefully this is a wake up call to the rest of the league, because if this happens again, people are going to lose their jobs, and they're not going to just lose their jobs for a period of time. They'll never be back in this league. So depending on the severity, or if there's like a real sense of forgiveness, I mean, you're not going to hear from these guys for a long time. So it's definitely
It's
interesting to see how the league goes forward with these kind of things.
And the worst thing about it is that the league, it's not like the first time that they deal with this type of controversy, and like it just never seems to be handled properly. And it's just a blemish on the sport itself, and it's not a good look for the NHL. So, we'll see where they go from here, but things definitely need to change.
Yeah, Taylor Hall referred to it as an old man's league. Like, this is, I'm trying to put it in the words what he meant by that, but he basically said that, like, whatever they
Old
what
ways
yeah, old
isn't
ways,
the same.
whatever they feel like is right, they'll just do it, even if it's the public doesn't feel like it's right. And I think Bettman did know that if consequences weren't made, that there'd be a huge outcry and a big embarrassment on the sport, because maybe Bettman really didn't care like that much. I mean, I'm sure he cared, but I'm sure it probably wouldn't go past
It
his mind that
revolves
he
around money.
guys. Right.
Yeah, to them it's still a business, and I do think that the outlook on it is this going to hurt us and make us either lose fans, which in turn they'll lose money or revenue. It's that's just how they look at it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. It kind of just has always been like that. I'm sure they're not the only league. The NHL. I'm sure there's other professional sports, the Big Four, that do that too. But it's just we're talking about hockey here, and it's just the culture has always been like that. So I do think it's time for change.
Yeah, you go ahead, Josh.
Oh, I was just gonna say, basically, I'm not a fan of Batman. I'll leave it at that. But yeah, I agree with you guys, and like you were saying with what Hall said, it's like an old boys club in that sense. Yeah, things need to change. A lot of that older fucking crowd of whatever 67-year-old guys of the GMs, and I know it takes a while to get kind of established in the league, so it makes sense. But the end of the day, like Torch said, I like what he said in the sense of if that was your son, like how would you feel? Like yeah, so it's upsetting. It's a shit show. The NHL needs to stop taking money over problems, and unfortunately, that's how I see the world as job world and a lot of other shit. So I don't see it fully stopping, but issues like this definitely need to be better handled and not swept under the rug for 10 or 11 years. And I'm sorry, but I'm glad that Quenville's fired, Bowman's out. You got to pay the price, pay the piper. So I don't feel bad for them whatsoever, to be honest. They
Yeah, I
deserve
just
it.
I just wonder how that meeting went. I just feel like not that Quinville and should be coaching right now, but it did feel like that Bettman was probably just like, listen, dude, like, you need to step down, like, look at how my ass won't be covered, and stuff like that. So I do feel like, I don't know, as much as Quinville, it's tough. He's on a team that's 7-0. I definitely feel like he was pushed to be stepped down by Bettman. Like, I'm sure Quinville was just like, I could take the heat for this. And I feel like Bettman was probably like, yeah, like, what you did and stuff like that. Like, if you don't step down, you're gonna look like a clown, and I'm gonna look like the biggest clown. So I feel like there was, Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's stuff that goes on behind the scenes that we're not aware of. I mean, it's pretty obvious that I mean there was, but yeah, I mean the whole situation is just it's just messed up.
it is. There's still a lot of question marks to it that we'll probably never figure out. But until then, I think the right things were, everything went right. Uh, Obviously, the Jets GM still stays. It seems everyone's pleased by that, considering it looks like there was no evidence of of wrongdoing and him. No, I mean he supposedly he did know for like one meeting, but like it could have just blew by his head. Like maybe it was just an accusation. Maybe it wasn't actually real in his mind. So obviously he didn't know enough. So good to see that he's going to keep his position over one silly mistake that for him not to report it, since he was never really around in that conversation at all. So that is good for him to keep his position that he deserves. um we'll transition. Austin is back, so we'll go over his season outlook. He's not going to do a complete list, but he's going to do the top four, top three in the division. I'm not sure, probably top three.
We'll go with top four.
Okay, top four in the division. So we'll definitely be interested to hear what he's got to say, and we'll start off now.
All right, so I'm going to start with the Pacific Division. It's interesting how this is going to go down. With everyone being back in their respected divisions and things not mixed up anymore. I see right now, obviously Edmonton's on a tear, but I had Vegas coming out on top of the Pacific Division. I do believe that they're still a well-rounded team. I know they're dealing with injuries right now. Obviously, they don't have Fleury anymore, but I still think that as a team, they're always in the playoffs and they're always pretty good. So I have them at finishing number one in their division. At number two, I have Edmonton. Edmonton looked really good in the Canadian division, but we don't really want to talk about the Canadian division because that was just a mess all around, I believe. But I do think Edmonton has the power to be a top two team because of obviously Connor McDavid's an animal, and who's to say that him and Draisaitl won't light the lamp up as they have been doing at the beginning of the season. I don't think the goaltending is that good, but for the rest of the Pacific Division to be a top three, top four team, it's hard to see who would pan out to be in that second spot besides Edmonton. And at three, I have Vancouver. Kevin knows I'm a pretty hard on for Vancouver. I really like them as a team. I think that they got the players that they just deserved over the off season and stuff with the moves made. I think that I believe OEL and I believe Connor Garland as well. Correct.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean they got guys like JT Miller and obviously Besser and Bo Horvat, Elias Pettersson's back. They're a pretty good team, and yeah, I mean they're a little iffy at times, but I still think that they are going to place in the top four. I have them at three. And this list kind of gets a little bit more up in the air as you go down the list because Pacific Division's kind of rough all around. I don't know what you guys think, but I also had the Kings at four. I think that they have a young squad and also a mix of some veterans on the team that are pretty good all around. I mean, their goaltending's, kind of a toss up sometimes, but they still have like a lot of elite talent on the team for the most part. And I think that as a team, they should be in the top four. I mean, right now in the standings, they're all the way at the bottom in the Pacific, but I think that they're going to finish top four. And just to throw it in there, I honestly think Seattle is going to finish completely last in the Pacific. I don't think that that's a good team at all. I don't think that they were built for success this season with the expansion draft. So I'm going to move on to the Central Division. At the Central Division, I have Colorado finishing first. Pretty self-explanatory for the most part. I think that they're a very well-rounded team. With guys being in and out of the lineup for them, they haven't been at the top of the of the Central Division, but I still think that they're going to finish first. It's probably one of those that you just kind of already knew. At 2, I had Winnipeg. I really like Winnipeg's team all around. Their defense got a little bit better. They struggle a bit, but they're a little bit better than what they were previous seasons. Obviously, Connor Hellebuck is a great goaltender. Their offense is just phenomenal for the most part. I mean, they have a lot of depth. I really like Blake Wheeler. I really like Kyle Connor. He's probably one of my most favorite Jets players out there. He's very hard worker, always puts up a ton of goals. He's very slept on. And then you got guys like Scheifele, obviously, and their team is pretty good. They're a very well-rounded team. And then 3rd, I had Dallas. I think that Dallas is still a pretty solid team. I think that they definitely need some work on their depth, but I think that their defense is pretty solid. They seem to be doing okay this season. They're even with 7 points. They have 3 wins, 3 losses, 1 overtime loss, shootout loss, whatever they had. And I think that they'll be 3rd on that list. And then 4th I have is Arizona. I mean, that's what I had before the season started, and I'll stick with it. But obviously, that kind of seems like a dump. I don't think that they're going to be finishing top 4, but that's what I had them at. They're completely last in the Central right now. Obviously, they need to start turning it up because they haven't won a single game.
Yeah, I'll just jump in real quick. I definitely like your top 3 in the Pacific. I'm right in Vancouver with that 3rd pick too. I think that they definitely turned it around this year for sure. Again, I picked your Central pick. I picked the Blackhawks. So obviously the Blackhawks and the Coyotes have been pretty bad. So I'm not gonna do a switchy, even though I was thinking about it when I was taking a walk the other day. I was like, wow, I can't believe I actually picked the Blackhawks. Like they have been, obviously through this whole issue, and now like their team has also been playing like crap. So I respected the pick, the Coyotes, but that's gonna be a long shot now. I feel like Kessel will be getting moved quite soon.
Yeah, and just to reiterate, this is what I pretty much had in my head before the season started. I don't want to switch anything up now that we're about 6 or 7 games, some even 8 into the season. But this is just what I had. So I'm not really a fan of Nashville. That I don't have them finishing in the top 4. I think that they're still in rebuild mode. Didn't really like Chicago coming into this as well. They're not. I don't think Seth Jones was the answer to anything. Especially with that contract. And then obviously, I already said my top 4. So I don't know if I actually put St. Louis in there. I believe I did. Hopefully I did. Well, if I didn't, they're in my top 4. Whoever is 4th, I guess it was Arizona. Push them out. St. Louis, they're obviously a really good team. I still think that they're pretty good. Bennington's a little shaky, but I know he just did something the other night that made him look like an idiot. I completely forget what it was. I think he swung a stick at Kadri.
Yeah, he did. Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I still think St. Louis is very good. Their depth is pretty solid for the most part. So I'll have to throw them in my top 4 as well. So whoever that was, I guess Arizona you could push down the 5th. But I did originally have Arizona finishing in my top 4, and I still, I don't think that they will, but we'll see. All right, I'm going to move on to the Atlantic Division. This is another one that's kind of up in the air. Obviously, Tampa Bay finishing first. I have, again, kind of self-explanatory. I think most people, even though with the, not having the same exact team as their back-to-back run, it's for the most part pretty much the same. And I think that with anything from Vasilevsky at goaltending and, top defensemen and like Hedman, and then obviously their core is pretty good, elite wise. They have multiple elite players. I have Florida at 2. I really like Florida's team. Obviously, they've been shown it this season that they came to play. I love Huberdeau. I love Barkov. They play really well. Anthony Duclair has been playing phenomenal. Ekblad, Bobrovsky, and I believe Spencer Knight backs him up. So I really have enjoyed watching the Panthers play so far this season. I have them at 2. 3, I have Boston. I think Boston's a toss up this year, but I had them at 3 because they always seem to be like the Penguins and, put up a good fight throughout the season and always earn that playoff spot. So, they're a pretty solid team as well. I think if Swayman can get into form, he's their number one. Not having Rask is going to definitely hurt Boston, but I think Swayman can rise to the occasion. I think that the Bruins have a really good top 3 players, and you could even throw in top 4, but from Bergeron and Pasta and obviously Marchand, McAvoy, like their team is pretty good still. I don't know if they're playoff, the depth wise is going to go deep in the playoffs, but I think that they're very good, and I don't see why they won't finish top 4, although they started out a little shaky. And then at 4, I have Toronto. Sorry, Josh. I really don't like that team at all. Even before the season, I don't think that they're that good of a team. Like the way that they've played, they haven't, especially after what happened in the playoffs. I don't think they're there to play. I think that the whole situation with, the players taking up like 60% of the cap or whatever is the 5 or 4 players that are taking up all that cap. It's ridiculous. And it's not a team that's built to win. It's a very greedy team. I don't think it's the formula for success in the NHL either. So I just don't see them finishing top 3, especially with how they started this season. That kind of reinforces my idea. So I have them at 4. And then coming in 8th, I had the Senators. I think Detroit was probably going to bounce back a little bit this season, but they seem to be playing really well so far. And I'm actually kind of surprised with how they've been playing. I didn't think that they'd be playing this well. Montreal, obviously a huge disappointment, but I have the Senators coming in last for this division. If anyone wants to jump in, feel free before I move on to the Metro.
No, I agree with the Leafs. They're garbage, and no, but the whole 4 players for 60 whatever percent. It's it's true, and just overall as a fan, it's frustrating, but nothing you can do. But yeah, it's a little ridiculous, and you're seeing it kind of pan out right now with how like shit they've been. But again, what can you do? And hope for the best, but they definitely need to be. And yeah, last year as well with Montreal, trust me, that's still fucking in my nightmares when I go to bed. But yeah, it's unfortunate. So obviously something's got to be done. It's been since 67 years. So I always tell people I hope they win a cup before I die. And if not, that'll be pretty sad. But no, they definitely need to improve and stop signing guys to fucking $13 million contracts. Because again, I'm not saying Matthews isn't worth it, but like going back to the 4 players or 60%, how are you gonna like the true teams that go far? They don't really have that, right? So I know Tampa last year because they put Kucherov on the LTIR, it saved the money, whatever. But at the end of the day, they won the cup for a reason. So
yeah, and that team was still super deep. I don't think the Leafs are built like that. I think they're built with like 4 or 5 superstar players, but they're not that deep when it comes to their depth. I think that they're built like an NBA super team, and maybe that works in the NBA, but it just doesn't work in the NHL. Like we've seen it from time to time. Like there might be like one anomaly that actually like lands a cup like that. And you could say Tampa, but I still think Tampa guys like Patty Maroon and Killorn, they just kind of help solidify that championship.
Yeah, I'll just touch on Toronto. I feel like, they are slumping right now, but I feel like they'll definitely pull it together. I feel like they'll definitely finish top 3, in my opinion. I feel like their goal scoring will eventually, take over for that team. I think Jack Campbell's going to start bouncing back. He was really good last year, so I understand that Toronto could finish, maybe a little lower this year, but I feel like teams who have so much offensive firepower like them will, they'll start to turn it around when, the team needs it the most. So that's where I'm going there, and I'm excited to hear
Yeah,
this Metro.
we could talk about the Leafs for hours. I mean, there's plenty of stuff to dissect from that team, but as of right now, it's not looking good in Toronto, and I mean, we'll see if they can turn it around. But I think we're going to see a lot develop over the next season. And then I'm going to start with the Metro. Let's finish up this season outlook for my choices. So without being biased, I'm actually going to put the Flyers on in the right spot. Obviously they didn't play great last year. They started out all right, but they didn't play that good towards the end of the season. So I'm going to have to put them, I'm just going to start with them first, but I'm going to have to put them at 4th in the division. I think that they're at least going to make the playoffs, but whether it's wild card or maybe they snag 3, but I do think that the Flyers make the playoffs. With how they've been playing this season so far, I mean, they look really good. Besides the game against Florida, but other than that, I mean, I really like the ferocity and the energy that the team has been bringing, and they're not a pushover, and they're not afraid to be physical this season, and they didn't show that last season at all. So I really like that. But I might be completely wrong. I mean, they may be top 1 or 2 if they keep playing how they're playing, but I have them at 4, fighting for a wild card at some point. So back to the top, at 1, I have the Islanders. They've been kind of disappointing this season so far, but I had them ranked at 1 coming into the season because they really gave Tampa a run for their money in the playoffs, and I really thought that they were going to take them down. Their team is pretty good, all around. They're a very good team. Their goaltending is good, and they got some young guys that really rise to the occasion, and they're a solid band. But I don't know. I right now they're not looking like a number 1 team, but I still think that they're gonna fight their way back up the standings. I have them at number 1. Number 2, I had Washington. Washington looked really good this year so far, but even before that, I think that their depth is really good. Obviously, Ovi is always a plus to have on any team, but guys like TJ Oshie and Kuznetsov, obviously, and I believe Backstrom's been out for the whole season so far. I don't know if he's back yet, but even guys like him, they're playing well right now without him. So I think when they get guys like him back and their goaltending's all right, I think that they could play pretty well this season. I think that they're going to be at 2. Obviously, Flyers are at 4 for me. So who could be above them? I hate to say it, but I have Pittsburgh above them. I really do, and I don't know how you feel about that, Kevin, but I have Pittsburgh above them because I don't know. They just always seem to make the playoffs, and they always seem to make it well. They don't make it a nail biter. They play really well throughout the regular season, and they always make the playoffs. And I don't think that this is their last hurrah, but it may be. I'm not entirely sure how I feel about next year for the Penguins, but if they can get set aside these injuries and push through like they have been, and I know they slowed down a bit so far this season, but I still think that they're a playoff worthy team, and I think that they're going to rank above the Flyers.
So who'd you have at number 1 again?
Number 1, I had the Islanders.
Okay. I do
2.
feel like that's where you put Pittsburgh's probably a right spot at 3. It's you see how hard they played already off the season start. I mean, they're down a bunch of guys that would definitely put them. I feel like if Pittsburgh was fully healthy, they would be first place in the league right now. Not the best in the league, but they would definitely be, up there with the Hurricanes. Maybe. I mean, the Hurricanes have also started off really well. So I mean, again.
Yeah, I mean, I like the Hurricanes team, but I just I didn't have them in my playoff prediction. I don't think that they're going to land a playoff spot. Obviously, they're proving me completely wrong from what I believed at the end of the playoffs last season. I just didn't like how they were, and losing Dougie was huge. And obviously, their goaltender that went to Detroit, Nedeljkovic, he's a really good goalie, and they just let him walk basically. So, I mean, I do think that at my original prediction, I didn't have them finishing in the top 4. So, I mean, interesting enough, it's they're playing really well. So I wouldn't be surprised if they continue to turn it up this season. I also didn't really believe in the Rangers. A lot of hype surrounding them coming into the season. I don't know. I can't really get behind it, so I didn't have them finishing in the playoffs either. And obviously, the Devils, to me, they're still in a rebuild phase, but they're getting there. And Columbus is it was a kind of a shit show at some point, so I didn't have them finishing in the playoffs as well either. So
Yeah, see, it's having mic troubles real quick.
take your time. So yeah, I don't know how you feel about this,
Yeah,
Josh, but
Carolina is they were a tough team for me because of the exits that they had and the goaltending trade that they made. But Freddie Anderson 5-0 to start this year off. I mean, I would have never thought that.
how do you feel about that, Josh?
Because he actually has some defense in front of them that is quality defense as opposed to the Toronto Maple Leafs or like not. But no, it's good for him. I don't know. Everyone who would say like he's not a quality goaltender, I always kind of knew it. And I'm glad like for him to go to another team. I don't know how he lasted 5 years. I would have like wanted to leave, been frustrated as a goalie. But yeah, I'm loving him. Pretty much agree with a lot of your picks. But I wanted to ask you guys, being the Flyers fan, do the Flyers trade anybody?
Did they
Like,
trade anyone?
no, like, should they?
Oh, should they trade?
And what comes across my mind for some reason, even though it wouldn't happen, is their captain. But I mean, like, do you see Giroux as being like past his like Claude Giroux, or do
I
you
don't
think
believe
this?
so. I think
Well,
he's still.
he's had a good start to his year, which is I don't
Yeah,
think the Flyers fans are. I mean, of course they want him to do well, but man, he's kind of contract year right now, and if he has one of those 102 points, but I don't know if that'll actually happen. But if he has at least an 85-point season or 90 points, he ain't coming
got to
back for
pay the
no.
man.
He ain't coming back for no 5.56 million that everyone
Yeah,
thinks he's gonna get. No,
yeah. I
he's gonna
mean,
get
a
his
lot of.
payday. He's gonna
I
cash in
agree
for
with Kev.
another maybe a 2-3 year deal, like usually bridge deals are for RFAs, but he might get a 2-3 year deal back at the same price he's at now. So. And if the Flyers don't give him that, I mean, he has the right to walk away from it, and I probably would too if you're gonna cut me 3 million or so after I just had a career year. So
Yeah, I completely agree with Kev. I think that it would be amazing for him to come back on a discount like that, but if he puts up like that good of a season, and I mean, obviously, I put the bias aside, Kev, but like he's a great player. He puts up massive points. Um, he's still pretty elite for the most part. So you really got to pay the dude if he plays well. You have to pay him. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. Like unless you let him walk, which to me is still a blow to the team because I still think that he's from the years that he's been here and the seasons that he stuck with the team and through the era of just being given mediocrity, you have to pay him. I would love to see him come back on a $6 million contract, like a swap with Coots' original contract, but you have to pay the dude if he plays well, and I'm totally for paying him as well if that's the case to accommodate. I also don't see why he would want to stay here if we completely bomb this season and his clock's running too. I'm not saying he can't play for a little longer, but retirement's in the area. It's not knocking on the door, but it's hanging out. So
right.
and that goes for a majority of those those guys in that era. Like obviously Ovi might play a little longer, but like even Crosby, you could probably agree with like the time is coming for these guys soon. So I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing some, obviously not Crosby, but if Giroux were to go to a contender at some point, and it might be next year, if things don't go well here.
Yeah, definitely something to keep our eye on. So real quick, we'll end off the segment with a lock of the day. I'll give you the lines right here. We have the Senators and Stars 8:30 game. We'll just pick one game because we're running out of time. Stars money line, Senators money line. Stars money line's minus 195. Stars or Senators plus 165. Over under is 5.5. What do you think that bet your best bet of the night for is? The lock of the night.
So what was the original one? I have the Stars winning the Senators game, but you talking about any game that's on the night?
Just this game, pinpoint
Okay,
game.
gotcha. All right, so Stars and Senators, right?
Yep, make it
All
quick.
right, I got the Stars locked in over the Senators. I think the Senators are a solid team so far this year. But I just see the Stars stomping on them at home.
I'm gonna go over 5.5. I think this game will definitely have some goals in it for sure. I think the Stars, they can play good goaltending, but I feel like the Stars are gonna put up, I think, a lot of goals tonight. So I think that will, be the difference maker in that over under. I can definitely see the Stars putting up 4 to 5 goals tonight, and think the Sens will get a couple. Yeah,
All
Josh.
right, well,
I
yeah.
was
What do you
just gonna
think, Josh?
say, I'm just gonna say like probably Dallas being a defensive team and all, and they don't allow a shit ton of goals, but I'm gonna say like Dallas definitely taking it, but I'm doing a score prediction here. But I was gonna say maybe like 2-1 Dallas.
Yep.
Just with them being like obviously just defensive and all that. So that's my bet on that.
All right.
All right, that sounds good, guys. We'll end it off here. Obviously, we really needed to cover that Blackhawk situation, so we did. We got Austin's outlook on the year. Nice to have Josh back with us today. So we're gonna end it off there, guys. We'll definitely be back the next week or so. We've definitely been pretty busy, but we'll definitely get another episode out there for everybody. So thanks again. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, you name it, and we'll see you guys soon.